And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm fully aware of my dream, which I'll share in a minute. And then Alan continues on with what the Lord was speaking to him about Zechariah 3.
That was on Monday, the 26th. On Friday, Corey and I flew out to a church. And on the way flying there, I was meditating on Psalm 110, on Jesus as a priest and a king, as a priest on his throne. And as I'm meditating on Psalm 110, the Spirit just says, turn to Zechariah 3. I have something for you. So I'm just meditating on Zechariah 3. I get caught up in a couple hours of a wonderful airplane Bible time.
This is like January 24th or 25th or something, the day before the 26th. Okay.
And the Lord begins to speak to me out of Zechariah 3. He said about divine order, the priest and the kingship. But he begins to talk about how Satan opposes the priest and how he assaults the priesthood, and that it's real and that it's not ethereal. It's not a concept. It is a concept, but it's more. It's real. And that the Lord, when Joshua was standing there before the Lord in defiled garments, with Satan having certain rights to be there to oppose him, that he has ground to oppose him. It's kind of like Peter, Jesus telling Peter, Satan's asked me to sift you like wheat, and you've got some issues, and they're going to show up in a few hours when you deny me. But there's this sense of the Lord, when he's choosing his leadership team, the very first thing he does is he differentiates Joshua's issues from the satanic assault. And the first thing he does is says, here's number one, there's a snake in the garden and he's getting out. That when the Lord shifts the season from a 16-year hiatus of Joshua and Zerubbabel, when he shifts the season, he begins it with the rebuke of the evil one. Then that it's real and that it matters. And the Lord began to speak to me. I am about to rebuke the work of the evil one over this last season of great oppression, great trial, great sifting. And when he spoke that to me, courage entered my heart. And I began to dialogue with the Lord in prayer about twofold. Number one, I got faith to join with the Lord's purpose that he's going to push back the assault of darkness on our finance, on our health, on our character, on all these things that are trying us, that are beyond us. Because what was hitting me is there are evil days when all you can do is stand. There are what Jesus called the hour of the power of darkness. He says the light's only with you for a little bit longer. The darkness is coming. So there are seasons when God lets the evil one come in such a way that his saints can't find their bearings. When they're standing by a fire with a little girl saying, aren't you from Galilee too? And he goes, I never knew him. There's those seasons that God lets his apostles go through where you are tried at a level that you're not prepared for. Later, Peter would go before Herod and the Sanhedrin and not be moved, but a little girl by a fire causes him to curse his master and Lord and say, I never knew him. Those seasons where your own deficiencies, your own issues are there, and yet it's the rage of Satan setting up the scenario to produce it in a way to get you to fall to three temptations, I felt like the Lord said for our staff. Three temptations that we were being tried in. The first one was the temptation to draw back in despair. That the onslaught of the evil one has been so great, we've just gone back to fishing. We just said, I guess this wasn't it. And we gave up. We quit the journey under the assault. The second one is that we didn't quit, but we just began to think that this season is normal. And we did not have faith to pray for it to be broken off. We just kind of settled into the season, and some Zacharias and Haggai's were rising up telling us it's not like this forever. It's a new season. It's a shift. Re-engage for the prophetic promises.
That's what we're doing today right here. We're not going to take this season.
And I had this real sense that the prophetic promises are as real as they've ever been, and we were to get faith for the next season. And then the third thing is that because of the intensity of the season, people's deficiencies have been demonstrated to one another, and that we were going to have a temptation, like 2 Corinthians 5, to judge each other according to the flesh. And that we had actually entered in with the accuser towards one another, and we had not separated out calling from onslaught, from deficiency, and we had not been able to navigate it. And the Lord I just kept hearing this. Is this not the one I've chosen? Is this not a brand plucked from the fire? And so he was driving back Satan, and then he was reaffirming the call. And then even more than just reaffirming the call, he let him feel those clean garments. How many of you know if he just had reaffirmed the call, but he hadn't felt the clean garments, it would not be enough? And I felt like he was speaking those three things. I'm going to drive back Satan. I'm going to give you the right perspective on your brethren again and their prophetic promises and this movement's promises. And number three, I'm really going to do a new level of holiness and work in your midst where you could feel the clean garments. You can't live out wholeheartedness alone. And I'm going to give a communal breakthrough, the breakthrough for the community to live at what you've longed to live for the last 15 years. I'm going to let you walk in it in his time, his way. So I landed in Connecticut with that in my spirit. We landed there, and we get to a church that, frankly, accusations are running wild. It had used to be a great church. Now it's pretty dim. And I honestly, after the first night, went, okay, I've got 2 more messages, and I'm out of here. Hallelujah. Come back to Kansas City. I love Kansas City. There's no place like home when you go other places, right? And so Corey and I had already kind of removed ourselves. And the next thing we know, the Lord broke in around Psalm 110 and Psalm 2 with such authority. By the time we left, the people wouldn't leave the building. People were getting saved. I mean, young, black, and Latino and white men were getting saved just effortlessly, coming into the kingdom. There was breakthrough on multiple levels, and I walked out, and I felt like it was a little kiss from the Lord that we walked into a scenario where he demonstrated that in a moment he can push back darkness and realign and reset and release the promise in a moment if we'll have faith again.
So you go to the friendship group that you're a part of with him. He shares that. Do you share?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in Florida getting the testimonies. People are emailing me like crazy. You're missing it. I thought, well, there you have it.
And so here we are in the friendship group, and I'll tell the dream real quick. So in the dream, IHOP, and now this was 2001 that I had the dream, IHOP was all getting ready to go on a journey. And on this journey, we knew that we were going to be tested and tried and proved and made ready. And we knew at the end of the journey that we were going to be given those clean white turbans and rich robes, and we would have charge over his courts and access to the angelic. And so we were looking to that day, but we knew that we were going to be on a severe journey, like the severe testing. And the Lord told us ahead of time, it's going to be long and it's going to be hard, but if you'll endure and stay with it, the day of deliverance will come. And so that happens where we start going on this journey, and fast forward, we've been on this journey for some years. And I mean, in the dream, it was kind of epic. We were swimming oceans. We were climbing walls. We were leaping over things. We were like, this is awesome. But what we weren't ready for was right at this transition, at the end of the dream, right before we were going to be delivered. We were not ready for the rage of Satan in our ear, the accusation, and in the dream, literally this fog, where now we're still asked to swim the oceans and climb the walls, but there's a fog, and we can't even see our way forward. And then right when we think that we cannot make it, the Lord delivers us. And he comes and he does what Alan was doing in the natural, where he was, the Lord rebuke you, Satan. This one I have chosen. And I named you already. I chose you. And he was declaring who we were. And the fog lifts. And we find ourselves in this big auditorium. And Mike's on the platform. And we no longer have the fog. And we see with clarity the future. And we can't believe all that God had brought us through. And his kindness and his wisdom to lead us this far. And all we want to do is worship, which is obviously the reason we signed up, this one thing. All we want to do is worship, and we have this pent-up worship that we're ready to explode. And Mike, before this happens, before we can explode in worship, he says, as Mike would say, we need to just highlight, the Lord's highlighting this moment, January 26th. And he says the date in the dream, and then we begin to worship.
This is 14 years ago.